All right. Article coming out of Cleveland.com says Ohioans are so angry about rising property taxes that they want to create a crisis and abolish them altogether. A grassroots group called Citizens for Property Tax Reforms are asking voters to sign petitions to ban all property tax collections in Ohio. A handful of legislators have even signed to the amendment, which would wipe out our property taxes with zero plan to replace them. Ohio's $20 billion in property taxes pay for public schools, libraries, police and fire department, mental health programs, and more. All right, so mental health programs. You know what can cause mental health crisis? Really high property taxes. If property taxes are outlawed, how will schools pay teachers or libraries open their doors? But developments with property tax abatement are exempt. So we know that the places that are exempt from property taxes. I do want to go over here and take a look at this unclaimed funds in Ohio. How to get yours after stadium payout. Looks like you can still get them. I don't know if you're going to 100% be able to get them. I don't understand how that's even possible. But it says that the unclaimed funds surged an 83% increase between June 30th and July 6th. The surge comes just weeks after Governor DeWine signed a state budget that allocates $1.7 billion in unclaimed funds to go towards the Cleveland Browns Stadium and upgrades to other sporting facilities. About $600 million alone is earmarked for the new Dome Stadium in Brook Park. Okay, so we got quite a bit of money here. One individual in protest saying that they don't want to give their money to a stadium, but it does appear that the Ohio Department of Commerce is also reporting that more visitors to unclaimed funds website. The numbers doubled from May to June soon after the budget was announced. Okay, so everybody's realizing, we better get our funds before the thing's gone. Pretty good idea. But it looks like that the performance grant, and it is a performance grant, and it must be paid back from the revenue generated by the stadium. But clearly Ohioans, they're not taking it. And so we're going to go ahead and move on and take a look at this Ohio tears through blighted Ohio housing problem. So we got a blighted housing problem. Anytime you see this is a socialist communist approach in taking private property. So let's go ahead and look at this statement that DeWine had made. And let's see here. If you're paying your mortgage and the value of your house was $120,000, nobody has a $120,000 house anymore, $120,000 house anymore, and now it's $60,000 because you live by a neighbor whose house is abandoned. You're a victim, DeWine says. All right, so that's not good. To have a $120,000 house, then it's 60. I'd like for that case scenario to be shown, and I would like to see that adjustment actually happened in the valuation process with regards to the how Ohio housing valuation, however they do the taxes, because I'm guaranteed to not see that. But nonetheless, this $120,000 house is now more like probably $200,000 because they demoed thousands and thousands of houses. And the intent was to revalue them so they could get even more money. Okay, so this whole thing is a fraud. It's a scam. They're taking private property, and it's usually poor people's property. I've met a lot of individuals that came in from Georgia and mentioned that they had homes in Toledo, and they had to come in and paint the house because they were going to get it demoed. So you're talking about minor infractions that would get people to really put hundreds of thousands of dollars that they didn't have or get demoed. And the result is a revaluation of their property. So this was leading up to that big revaluation that we seen not too long ago. It started way back 2012, actually 2006, if I kind of look a little closer.
6,000 homes
in this article. So we have a coronavirus in Ohio. A lottery never stopped generating funds. So that clearly is not enough money. So we do have some school districts that are in a rush to sell bonds after draining COVID cash. So you got a couple of schools that are underwater here. According to the declaration here for this school, the state auditor has certified that the district is $2.9 million in deficit. for this fiscal year, and that's going to be Timble deficit. And let's take a look at health. City schools pay off bond debt early, decreasing property tax bills in 2025. Okay, so you got an outliner here that actually is decreasing their property tax, and that's pretty rare. But we have $55 million for demolition and brownfield remediation project. All right, this has to come from somewhere. Okay, so if Governor DeWine is announcing it, this is coming from somewhere. And I have to remind everybody, this is fiat money. So we're using fake money to tear down real estate that's real property. And we don't know the process that's going through this whole legal thing of it. The whole legal process can be a huge mess. And once the state gets the money, they have every incentive to continue the legal process until they get their outcome. And this is an erosion to property rights, really. So Governor DeWine announces launch of demolition program to clean up blight. Okay, we got socialist, communist words like blight, beautification, safety, those type of things. They want to use those. 88 counties. Okay, and like I said, I've met people. Some of these stories made the news where there was people in homes with bulldozers pulling up to their homes, and they had to go through the whole process of having a hearing to get their house taken off lists. And there was no really any great way they did this. It was just a complete offense on private property. Really, it was. So they're going to put commercial, but let's emphasize residential buildings was part of this demolition project. We got $150 million in grants to raise. Okay, this is $150 million. We're talking about a Republican governor. So we got both sides of it willing to take private property to raise your property taxes.